here making my next recipe in my Betty Crocker cookbook series, making recipes from the 1950s Betty Crocker picture cookbook. I'm super excited about today's recipe because it is caramel apples. So we're still in the first section, confections, easy confections for children. So we're gonna get started. I'm gonna start the caramel mixture and then we will prepare the apples. So I have in here 2/3 cup coconut oil. The recipe calls for butter, but I'm actually low on butter, which if you knew me, that is like, I don't even know what it's like. It's not even imaginable. But I didn't have enough to make this. But I'm assuming that any solid fat will work. So we're trying coconut oil. Hopefully I'm right. And this recipe doesn't fail because I chose to use coconut oil instead of butter. So I have 2/3 cup coconut oil. I have a cup of brown sugar and 2 cups of white sugar. And a cup of cream. And then we need 2/3 of a cup of corn syrup. Oh, and I'll need a teaspoon of salt. And vanilla. Okay, so now I'm supposed to cook to 246 degrees. So we'll let that cook, melt, and come together. After the oil melts and the sugar dissolves, I'll put the thermometer in. But while we wait for that, we'll get the apples ready. So the apples have been chilled. Like the recipe calls for. And I got some dowels. So it says, insert a sturdy wooden skewer. So I got these wooden dowels in the candy making area of Walmart. Now I'm trying to remember which way. I think put it through the top. Hopefully I'll be able to get them to go in here. I was worried for a moment. Okay, I got a pan here. So we'll get these. I got the Granny Smith. I figured the tartness would go nicely with the flavor of the caramel. So my youngest daughter is so excited because she just got her braces off yesterday. And I was like, oh, this is great timing, because if I would have made these a couple days before, then you wouldn't have been able to eat them. Not that they're totally obedient to the orthodontist rules, but I probably would have had to draw the line at caramel apples. So that's pretty exciting. It says 8 to 10 apples, and I have 9. So I guess that's gonna work out pretty good. Okay, I'm just gonna stick these back in the refrigerator so that they stay cold while we cook the caramel sauce. That's still melting and dissolving and coming together. Okay, continuing with useful kitchen utensils, and today they're talking about baking pans. Measure that pan. Do keep a ruler handy. To measure pans, it's dandy. Place the rule across the top. Right-sized pan prevents a flop. So they recommend a square pan, 9 by 9 inches, 2 round layer pans, at least 1 1/4 inch deep, for 8-inch pans, or 1 1/2 inch deep for a 9-inch pan. They recommend an oblong pan, 13 by 9, 2 inches deep. A tube pan, 10 inches in diameter. A pie pan, 1 inch deep, measured from the inside rim to the outside rim, should be 8 or 9 inches. A bread loaf pan, 9 by 5 inches. A cookie sheet or baking sheet that doesn't have sides. A ring mold for puddings, breads, salads, etc., and a wire rack for cooling cakes, cookies, and breads. An oven thermometer to check your oven temperature. A jelly roll pan or baking sheet with low sides, 15.5 by 10.5 inches, and a 1/2 inch deep. Muffin pans, large, medium, or small cups. A casserole dish with a cover, round, oval, or square, in a 1 quart, 1.5 quart, or 2 quart size. And then individual custard cups set in a shallow pan to bake. A fluted pudding mold for steamed puddings, for breads, etc., 1 quart or 2 quarts. A roasting pan with a rack in a size suitable for your family. And a round pudding mold, 1 or 2 quarts, for brown bread, plum puddings, and other steamed puddings. And then other useful utensils for food preparation. 2 or 3 sharp paring knives for paring, cutting vegetables and fruits. A vegetable parer with a floating blade for paring potatoes and other vegetables thinly. Several straight-edged knives. French pattern knife for quickly mincing and cutting nuts, celery, green pepper, etc. I'm not actually sure what a French pattern knife is. This smells really good. Okay, also a bread knife with a sawtooth edge for cutting breads, fruit, cake, etc. neatly. A long slicer for evenly slicing roasts. A grapefruit knife with a curved blade for cutting under grapefruit sections. A small ball cutter for cutting out melon balls, potato balls, and butter balls. Chopping bowl and knife for chopping meat for hash, giblets for gravy, etc. An ice crusher to crush ice. Apple core to remove apple cores. A strawberry huller for hulling strawberries. Picking pin feathers from poultry, etc. A sturdy pair of kitchen scissors, an essential for many uses. Food choppers with fine and coarse cutters for grinding meats, vegetables, nuts, etc. Several tablespoons for general use. Wire strainers, fine, coarse, and very fine for straining foods, sieving them, etc. A funnel for filling jars and bottles. A large spoon with holes or slots for scooping food out of liquid, as in a poached egg. Ladle with a long handle for soups and jams. Tongs for lifting vegetables, meats, etc. out of liquid or pan. Pastry brush for greasing pans, brushing dough with melted butter, etc. A potato ricer for ricing potatoes or other vegetables, perhaps preliminary to mashing. Potato masher of solid wood or heavy wire for mashing potatoes or other food. A set of graters to grate food to different degrees, from very fine to coarse. A lemon squeezer for extracting juice from lemons, oranges, and grapefruits. A can opener, a jar opener, a bottle opener, a corkscrew. Very important. Have you ever needed to open a bottle of wine and not had a corkscrew? I have several times. Usually takes a few tries, but usually you can figure some way to manage to get it out or push it in. If you can push it into the bottle, sometimes that'll work, which, you know, as long as you're going to drink the whole bottle. Hopefully share the bottle. Okay. Molds such as ring, melon, or fluted shaped molds for puddings, salads, etc. Fancy shaped individual molds for single serving sizes. Timer with an alarm to let you know when a dish has finished cooking. Cutters of various shapes and sizes for cookies, biscuits, donuts, etc. Bread or pastry bowl for kneading dough and rolling out cookies, pastry, etc. Also a canvas or heavy crash cover for the board. Heavy crash cover? Not exactly sure what they mean by that. Okay. Rolling pin, and for a cover, a child's white ribbed cotton stocking with the foot cut off. Pastry set, a canvas or heavy crash cover for the board and a white jersey tube cover for the pin. A colander, a perforated metal pan for straining coarse foods or pureeing vegetables. You know what I'm going to have to do, because I want to know also, is I'm going to look up a French pattern knife, and I'm also going to look up and try to figure out what a crash cover is for a pastry board. And if I do find those, I'll just link them below to a picture and maybe description of what they are, just so that we will know. If you don't, you might know. But I don't know, and if anyone else is like me, then hopefully I'll be able to find a link and I will link it. Let's see. Okay, and then kitchen utensils for storage. A canister set, cans for sugar, flour, etc. A bread box, if not part of your cabinet. A cake safe, if it's not part of your cabinet. A cookie jar. A set of refrigerator dishes with covers. Plastic refrigerator covers and bags. Waxed paper, cheesecloth, rubber bands, and aluminum foil. And then for the sink and cleaning, you should have a rubber scraper for scraping dishes clean. Dish pans when the sink is not used for a pan. Rubber mats for drain boards. Small small scrub brush, bottle brush, vegetable brush, dish mop, dishcloths, pot holders, dish towels, paper towels with a holder, sink strainer, waste basket, garbage can, soap, steel bowl, cleaning powder, etc. So that's what they recommended in the 1950s Betty Crocker picture cookbook for your kitchen utensils to have on hand. Looks like this is all melted now. I'm going to put the thermometer in. See where we're at. Let's see. I think it said 146 degrees. So the temperature is at 156. And if you watched my last video, you remember that I had to adjust the temperature that I was cooking it to according to my altitude. So I'm at 2,800 feet. And how you do that is you see what temperature your water boils at on the thermometer you're going to use. And mine boiled at 208, which is 4 degrees less than water boils at sea level. So I'll have to subtract from my recipe 4 degrees. So the recipe calls for me to cook it to 246 degrees. So I'll be cooking it to 242. So we got about 90 degrees to go. Well, it's at 165 now. Maybe it'll keep going at a good rate. It says I only have to stir it constantly toward the end, so I don't have to keep stirring it. Smells so good. I'm super excited. Okay, so we're at 240. It's supposed to be going to 242. Stirring constantly now so it doesn't scorch. And then when it gets to 242, we'll do the ball test, where you put a drop in cold water and see if it makes a soft ball. Okay, 242. I'm going to turn the heat off. And then I'm going to put a little in here. See what happens. That looks nice. Take this off, because this looks good. Oops. You can see how it's made a ball, a nice soft ball. Okay, so it says to let it cool for a few minutes. I wish the recipe was a little more specific than that, but we're just supposed to let it cool for a few minutes. So what we'll do is I will read the recommendations they have in this cookbook for storing food. So they recommend storing shortenings, which they would define as lard or butter, closely covered in the refrigerator. If you're keeping drippings, strain directly into container and store in the refrigerator. Milk, cream, and eggs. Keep milk and cream covered and eggs near freezing temperature in the refrigerator. No. Keep milk and cream covered and eggs near the freezing unit in the refrigerator. So their refrigerators, you know, back then were different than ours in the 50s. And based on that, I'm guessing that the temperature varied quite a bit inside of the refrigerator. So they wanted them basically in the coldest part of the refrigerator. Cheese. Tightly cover soft cheese. Wrap hard cheese in waxed paper. Store covered in the refrigerator. Grate leftover cheese and keep in a covered jar. Let's see, sugars. Keep granulated and confectioner sugar covered in a dry place. Keep brown sugar in an airtight container with a slice of apple or orange on waxed paper to add moisture. Change the fruit often to ensure freshness. Hard brown sugar can be softened by placing crisp lettuce leaf or a slice of fresh bread in the container, or by heating it for a few minutes in a slow oven. So by slow oven, they would mean just a warm oven, not a hot oven. If heated, use it immediately. Okay, staple supplies. Keep tightly covered in cool, dry place. Replace herbs and spices as soon as they lose their freshness. After dried fruit package has been opened, wrap fruit in waxed paper. Coffee and tea. Keep tightly covered in cool, dry place. After opening, keep in refrigerator and keep only 1 week's supply on hand. Flour, cereal, cake mix, etc. Keep tightly covered in a cool, dry place. Do not keep whole wheat or other coarse flours or cereals near white flour. Damp flour may be dried by sifting before an open oven. Breakfast foods may be crisped by heating in oven. For long keeping, store whole wheat, cornmeal, and rye flours in tightly covered glass containers. In hot weather, keep them in your refrigerator. Nuts and coconut. Keep shelled nuts and coconut tightly covered in the refrigerator. Renew softness of coconut by heating over hot water. Marshmallows. Keep tightly sealed in a bread box or glass jar. Soften by heating in a damp bag in the oven. Remember, they didn't have a microwave? Okay, fresh fruit. Keep unripe fruit at room temperature to ripen. Store ripe fruit, except for pineapple and bananas, in a cool place. For cut lemons, oranges, and melons, place cut side down on a plate or in a covered container and store in the refrigerator. Parsley, watercress, and lettuce. Keep washed parsley and watercress with the water shaken from them in tightly covered jar in the refrigerator. For storing lettuce, see salads. Cut onions and garlic. Place cut side down in a jelly glass or cardboard carton. Cover and store in the refrigerator. Salad dressings. Cover tightly and keep at room temperature or in the refrigerator, but not the coldest part, and never freeze them. Condiments, also salad oils, syrups, molasses, etc. Keep tightly covered in refrigerator or kitchen cupboard. Hulled and sweetened berries and sliced peaches. Keep fresh berries wrapped in paper in the refrigerator. Wash and hull shortly before using. Keep hulled strawberries in tightly covered glass jars in the refrigerator. Sliced bread. If not used right away, wrap in waxed paper or place in a moisture-proof bag and store in freezing tray of refrigerator or in home freezer. Take out and use as desired. To freshen dried bread slices, place them in paper bag, sprinkle with water, twist top, and heat in a moderate hot oven, 400 degrees, for 5 to 8 minutes. Potatoes, onions, beets, carrots, and other root vegetables keep in a cool, dry, well-ventilated place. For other vegetables, see vegetables. Okay, I wonder if this is cooled off enough now. It looks like it's getting a little thick. The apples are chilled, so I'm guessing we should just give it a try. So I'm going to get the apples out of the refrigerator. Okay, so it just says to quickly dip them and twist them to cover it and put them on waxed paper. So I've never made caramel apples before. This seems kind of like it might be the tricky part. I'm not sure. Oh, not too bad. I wonder if it should be a little cooler. It's running off quite a lot, so maybe it's still too warm. Maybe I'll double dip them. Like I said, it just says cool until it thickens slightly. Which I thought it had. Maybe not quite enough. It's kind of fun. I am going to let it cool a little bit more and then try dipping these again. So I definitely think I should have let this cool more and get thicker, but it has thickened some more now. So I'm going to re-dip some of these apples. I might not have enough to re-dip them all, but we'll see if we can get a thicker coating on these. That'll stay a lot nicer, huh? Unfortunately, I won't have enough to do them all. Just a couple, it looks like. That's okay. I'm sure the ones with the thin coating will still be quite yummy. Oh yeah, these look a lot better. Wish I could do more of them. I think that's all I'm going to be able to do. I might be able to drizzle some of that on there, but you can see the difference. The ones I put more caramel on and the ones that I didn't. So there's the caramel apples. Really not that hard. Just make sure you let your caramel get thick enough. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure and subscribe and follow my journey as I cook through this Betty Crocker cookbook from 1950. I haven't made any of these recipes, so I'm learning with you and just showing you how it goes, and not always perfect, as you can tell, but these are going to be delicious anyway. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.